In today's video I will be providing an update on our mealworm farm. If you didn't see me make the mealworm farm, I will link the video up above. I'm Kirsty, this is Hartstumble Homestead. I hope you enjoyed the video. It has been over a month, more like 6 weeks since I made this mealworm farm now, so I thought it was time for an update. So it's been going well so far, and now the weather's warming up, we are getting more pupa, and the pupa are starting to eclose, hatch into beetles. One issue I have noticed is now that the weather is warming up, we are getting a bit of condensation where the mealworms are. So what I'm going to do is just drill 2 holes just in the front at the top, because the beetles and the mealworms can't climb or fly, so having it up here is not going to allow them to escape, but it will allow more air circulation. Another issue I've had, but it was all my doing, is we ran out of homegrown carrots, and as I mentioned on the last video, was if you put something such as cucumber in or something like that with a high water content, it does go mouldy quickly and it does attract fruit flies. If you use something like carrots, that doesn't happen. But we ran out of homegrown carrots and I didn't want to go out and buy any because we're trying to do this as low cost as possible. So I put squash in that we still have a few of, and it did cause some fruit flies and some bits of mould to some of the oats, so I'm going to give them a clean out today too. I have give a few scoops of these to the chickens, but not many at all, because I do really want to get them established and get a nice cycle going. So that there is pupa. Well, that there. As you can see, they do still wiggle when they're the pupa. Then what I do now is just move it into that one. And as you can see, we are starting to get a few beetles. So I'm going to move the beetles to the top one. If you can see these black mealworms here, these are the ones that haven't made it to the pupa stage. This happens quite often, especially when you get the mealworms from a pet shop and they've been in a sweaty atmosphere. I find that once we get the mealworm farm established, we barely get any that we lose. So far we've used 1.5 kilograms of these porridge oats. These are about 85p. They're just the essential snack price range. What I'm going to do today, I'm going to be using 2 kilograms because we have got some beetles now, so I'll put nearly 1 kilogram in the bottom and nearly 1 kilogram in the top, and I like keeping a bit in a jar just next to it in case I need a little topper. If you didn't watch the last video, the reason I do this, so just pop it on low in the oven just while something else is in, and it just kills any little mites or anything that could develop in the oats, because when we first started the mini mealworm farm, we did get these little flies all over the house because we hadn't done that. So now I just put 1 kilogram in at a time, just put it in the bottom of the oven on low, just until it starts browning up slightly, then I leave it to cool before putting it in with the mealworms. That's the first lot of oats out of the oven. I'm going to leave that to cool while I clean out the mealworms. I'm ready to clean these out. These don't need doing often, it's just because they got condensation and their oats started to go a bit mouldy that I'm cleaning them out now. It's normally when it all goes to about this stage that they need cleaning. I've got my mealworms and a sieve. I've got a tray to put the sieved waste in. I've got a tray for the mealworms, that's for the pupa that I haven't collected yet, and of course I've got a cuppa. I'm just going to sieve as much as I can through. Just going to sieve it through the best I can and pop them in there. I'm just sieving gently so I don't harm them, but it is needed because otherwise we'll lose the full lot to mould. We don't want that. I'm just going to give this a quick go over because there's some birds circling. I think they can see the mealworms. So I'm going to give them a quick clean out, and then I think I'm going to have to finish it inside. Otherwise I'm going to get swarmed by birds, I think. I'm now just going to spend a little bit of time finding the pupa, because they'll be in their own section. So I just go through the farm every day and just swap them around as needed. It only takes 2 minutes. They're at the point now where they're a lot older mealworms and a lot of them are changing daily now. So we'll soon be at the point where they are breeding, and hopefully we'll get lots and lots of our own mealworms, and it will just continue the cycle. I've got the majority of the pupa. I also found 2 newly hatched beetles. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put these through a colander into here, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to put all this in a tub and put it in the freezer for a few days. If I hadn't found the beetles, I would have just put it in the compost, but mealworms are an invasive species, so we can't just put anything with their eggs or anything that could potentially have eggs just in our compost, because like I said, they are invasive. So it's a really good point. A lot of them are turning into pupa now. So I'm going to finish sieving this and then I will come back. The oats have cooled, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use kale that I've just harvested rather than anything over wet, and that will feed them. So I've put 1/2 kilogram in there and then 1/2 kilogram in this top one. I'm just going to do the same and put some kale in. Now the mealworms are in the bottom, and now what I need to do is transfer the beetles that I've hatched into the top one. So if you do make one, when you open the top drawer, make sure you open the second drawer too, because that's got the holes in. You don't want any eggs falling onto your floor. And there is a beetle. Found the best way when the beetles is just a wooden spoon, just to stop any damage to them. So I got asked on the previous video why it's essential to separate them. Well, many people do have success in keeping them all together, but they can be cannibalistic and they will eat each other. So it's best to keep them separate to get a better harvest of mealworms. And this is a very newly hatched beetle. You can see it's still got its casing around it. That one's a relatively new hatch too. I'm sure there was another one. There we go, another new hatch. And that's hatched as I've been doing things, this morning. Sorry, I just had to check Lottie hadn't brought another mouse into the house. Now them ones should be close hatch in the next couple of days, and then we'll have quite a few beetles. So the dark beetle, that one there, is one that has been hatched for a couple of days. They get darker as they get older. So that's it finished, the update's done. So Dean has drilled a couple of holes in, and what we are going to do is make the holes slightly bigger. We've got some of the more borehole type drill bits, and then Dean's going to put a bit of, it's like fine mesh that he's got left over from when he did his vivarium. That'll just stop fruit flies and things getting in, but then keeps the air circulating. So there's the mealworms in the bottom. They're all being quite quiet at the moment, but they are all alive. They're just not doing much at the moment. There is the pupa. Keep that one open. And the beetles are in there, but they've all buried themselves at the moment. So when I do the next update, there should be some little mealworms in the bottom here. So I'll show you that next time. I hope you've enjoyed the video, everybody. Thank you for watching. Bye.